Good afternoon. This is World Conflict Zone. These are the major developments in Ukraine and Eastern Europe, starting in Ukraine. Ukraine defense successes. A Ukrainian FPV drone successfully shot down a Russian Mi-8 helicopter, making a notable achievement in Ukraine's defensive operations. Missile strikes. The armed forces of Ukraine targeted the electrical plant in the Branch region using Neptune missiles. What this area that you see in front of you, okay, is the electrodental plant in the Branch region, and they use Neptune missiles, demonstrating the continued reach of Ukrainian military capabilities. Meanwhile, we also have the Genoese fortress that says it's universally called. Okay, so it was an oil depot attack, and an explosion occurred at the oil depot, which is located in Crimea, further impacting Russia's energy infrastructure in occupied territories. We have some shifts. Those shifts are international policy shifts. Washington now permits Ukraine to strike targets within Russia under certain circumstances. And this is according to statements that are coming out of the U.S. government. Here in Moldova, what's occurred is they had their parliamentary elections yesterday, and Sandu's pro-European party secured a provisional majority in Moldova's parliament, reinforcing pro-European sentiment in the region. Meanwhile, back to Ukraine in this area right in front, this little town, okay, right here. And there was some territorial gains in this area. Ukrainian forces have liberated roughly 175 square kilometers in this region in front of you. Okay. In Warsaw, there's been some regional defense cooperation. President Zelensky proposed that Poland and its partners collaborate to form a joint shield against air threats. International support. Polish officials noted that but U.S. president supports Ukraine, aligning with those who love winners. Some EU accession advocacy. COSA's urged members to state to bypass Hungary and unblock Ukraine's EU accession plans. Statement made from Polish leadership. Polish Prime Minister Tusk reiterated his confidence in Ukraine's victory, emphasizing the defense of Ukraine's independence and the future of upcoming generations. Now, moving on to Germany. In Germany, there's some German military aid. Germany will deliver 2 Patriot missile air defense systems to Ukraine by year end, and that's according to the defense minister. Aircraft deliveries to Ukraine. Ukraine is set to receive Gripen fighter jets, additional F-16s, and French Mirages, as announced by the Deputy Defense Minister. Now, moving on here, more specifically, is Belgorod. And this is the plant that received damage. Okay, so I wanted to give you a visual, even though it's a little bit slower in presenting this. I think there's value in you seeing what this thing was destroyed by Hamas missile strikes. These missiles destroyed the foundation of the building housing gas turbine units at this power plant, causing fires and halting power generation. Another missile hit an electrical substation. Okay, and damaging transformers and power lines. Now, moving on to back to Kiev. Ukrainian arms exports. President Zelensky has confirmed that Ukraine will export surplus weapons, with agreements already in place with the United States, Europe, and the Middle East, and Africa. Now, moving on to Palestine. Lots of news today concerning Palestine. So let's update you on all that is happening. So with the Israeli-Hamas conflict, U.S. U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu have announced an agreed plan to end the war in Gaza. While the plan has been presented to Hamas for consideration, its acceptance remains uncertain. Trump's 20-point plan includes establishing a temporary governing board for post-war Gaza, headed by Trump and including former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. The plan does not require displacement from Gaza and proposes an immediate end to hostilities if both parties agree. Hamas would be required to release all hostages within 72 hours of Israel's acceptance of the plan, with the United States supporting Israel should Hamas reject the proposal. The Palestinian government has expressed a willingness to implement reforms demanded by the United States and has welcomed this Trump plan. Conversely, Hamas representatives have criticized the proposal, citing lack of involvement in negotiations and concerns over its alignment with Israeli interests. A joint statement from foreign ministers of Qatar, Jordan, UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt welcomed the Trump deal, emphasizing the need to progress towards a two-state solution. However, leaders of the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and the Houthis viewed the plan as favoring Israel and as a potential source of further regional instability. Now let's move to Quantico, Virginia. Government shutdown. The federal government faces a possible shutdown on Tuesday, despite a scheduled meeting between party leaders and Trump to avert the closure. Both sides remain stalemated, with Democrats leveraging health care benefits in negotiations. Vice President Vance has predicted a shutdown following a non-inclusive or inconclusive meeting with President Trump. President address to military leaders. President Trump will address hundreds of top military officials convening at Quantico, Virginia, by Defense Secretary P. Haggis. National Guard deployment. So moving on to Portland. 200 Oregon National Guard members have been placed under federal control for 60 days to safeguard U.S. government personnel in Portland, mirroring similar actions in Los Angeles the previous summer. So moving on to specifically in this area right here. Okay, Dutch cargo ship suffered damage from an explosive device in the Gulf of Aden, according to the vessel's operator. Meanwhile, over in England today, some of it I reported on in some short videos, but let's get a little bit more specific here. Okay, so increased fighter jet activity has been observed east of England and Scotland, with German and UK Air Force jets operating over the North Sea. In addition, you have Canadian, United States, basically tanker, air refueling tanker cargo ships also looping in these areas, more specifically to the west, along in this area of the North Sea. Okay, now moving over to Scotland. It ultimately is the same thing in the area of Scotland, right in this area and right in this area. Now the question is why? Well, the reason why we have it and they're operating over here in the North Sea is drones have been sighted near the Sept gas field in the North Sea. Now a little bit more of where that is located. I'm going to zoom in here for you. So you've got a lot going on in this area right here. Okay, so this gas field in the North Sea, and the Norwegian authorities are investigating more unidentified drones near a natural gas platform west. Meanwhile, moving on to China and a little bit of Russian news along with the Chinese news. President Putin has signed a decree initiating the autumn draft of the Russian army, aiming to recruit 135,000 new personnel. Meanwhile, the U.S. intelligence community assesses that Chinese leader Xi Jinping has instructed the PLA to be ready for a possible invasion of Taiwan 2027. Now moving over to the previously had mentioned Sevastopol area. Occupied area, critical fuel shortages led to the introduction of fuel coupons and strict limits of 30 liters per person. Similar issues are reported across Crimea, with residents queuing for limited fuel supplies. Ukrainian drone attacks have inflicted approximately 100 billion in losses on Russia's oil and gas industry, with repeated strikes on refineries and pumping stations, including major facilities far from the Ukrainian border. To Warsaw. Polish Prime Minister Tusk emphasized the importance of solidarity with Ukraine, stating that Europe's future security depends on Ukraine's victory and independence. Trump criticized several countries for what he perceived as premature recognition of a Palestinian state. The United States is considering airstrikes against drug cartels with 10 F 35 stealth fighters already deployed in Puerto Rico, pending presidential approval. Venezuelan President Maduro is preparing to declare a state of emergency due to the buildup of U.S. military forces in the Caribbean Sea. Now, a summary of some additional items. Ukraine is launching another major drone swarm this afternoon against Russia. Ukrainian MiG-29 jets equipped with French AASM hammer-guided bombs destroyed a Russian battalion command in the eastern direction. These are the major headlines and news and happenings on September 29th. Please take the time to hit the like button and or subscribe. We do have a goal of trying to reach 3,000 subscribers. That would help me a lot if you subscribe and at the very least hit the like button if you viewed this video.